Salutations, fellow nerds. I'm Rick Y, the Wise Guy, and happy Friday the 13th to those who celebrate. It is December 2024. Whilst perusing the most riveting world economic data, something that should be on everyone's radar has popped up in my attention, and it is glaring. So if you are into news, history, and Americana, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want those real-time notifications, just diddle that little bell icon. I'd be much obliged. The recent economic numbers for China in November have just been released, and they are not great. Recently, their inflation has been on a pretty noticeable downward slide. At most, it hasn't gone above 0.07, and that was back in February. Since, its trajectory has shown a downward trend. As some of you may be a little confused as to why low inflation is bad, it's because unlike GDP, where a positive number consecutively marks solid growth, inflation is more of a balancing act, Too high, prices are too much for the consumer, but if inflation's too low, it actually is a sign of what we call a deflationary spiral. The first time this term was coined was the Great Depression. Once an economy reaches 0.0, their manufacturing and production begins taking in costs instead of revenue. They're now spending money instead of making it. Everything they make at this point comes at a cost to the company. China's current rate of inflation is now 0.2. Furthermore, just recently, Russia surprised economists by implementing a 55% tariff on all imported goods from China. And Trump is promising to implement a 100% tariff on Chinese imports. And if you're not gathering it yet, this is bad. The Chinese economy is on the brink of some pretty dire straits if they don't do something within their small window of the next few months. This will inevitably have a massive impact on their military apparatus, given that they've already been found to have made such drastic cuts to their budget that rockets are being emptied of their fuel so that service personnel in the field can cook with it. And some of the rocket systems are actually reportedly filled with water. Now, if this is true, I can't even imagine how they'll be able to maintain a robust naval force. If their military and projection of strength begins to wane, especially in the Pacific, the course of geopolitics will be affected. And if this trade dispute with China and Russia continues, realize that China still has some territory that currently belongs to Russia. Some of it with strategic and possibly economic benefit. It would sure be a shame if something were to happen to something like, Manchuria. See, what a lot of Americans don't understand is that there are hundreds of thousands of acres that, during the 1800s, Russia annexed from China the way they did with Crimea. They haven't forgotten that. And indeed, it has been kind of a sticking point for a lot of people in Central Asia. Given Xi Jinping's recent interest in territorial expansion, maybe facing a less threatening foe would be better. One of the things I press on to everybody is that regardless of whether you want to be an America First person or not, we belong to a global community. The wheels on this have been in motion for generations, and the community has only grown and strengthened over that period. Being proud of your country is one thing, but refusing to understand its place in a larger society will only serve to manipulate your worldview. It's important that we are aware of both our rivals and our allies' history, lest we intentionally misunderstand the realities around us. China and Russia are not friends. They're two nations who, at the time of this recording, are bleeding money and support in that global community. One of China's long-standing interests has been their economic standing. And at the moment, they may be at the precipice of economic collapse, while Russia's ruble has completely failed. The coming months are going to offer up some pretty ugly glimpses into the actual relationships in China and Eastern Europe. So hang in there with me so I can help you stay informed stay engaged, and stay decent. Until next time, peace.